world of wrestling, but like politics, football, sports in general, news, television, everything. There's some stuff that we won't really get into, but I was just fascinated by just so many things that just happened this week. I like on Monday, like Monday is when like our top story, which I'll get into in a minute. That's when that dropped. But the same day, like Tucker Carlson gets shit canned from Fox News, Don Lemon gets shit canned from CNN.
Like an hour within an hour of each other.
Within an hour. And then later that day, Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the Jets. And I'm just like, what in the world is going on? I'm expecting aliens to drop out of the sky. So, but that, thankfully not really thankfully, I kind of want to see how that works out. But I think Earth deserves an alien invasion with all the bullshit that we're doing right now. So, but man, our top story, CM Punk shows up at Monday Night Raw backstage. So let's double back a little bit. This is going to go back to our podcast last week. Okay. It actually starts with our podcast last week because this is pretty funny. We go on the air last week and we state that a meeting happened between CM Punk, FTR, and Chris Jericho. We record Thursday night, right? We thought that actually had already happened. And I had listened to all the podcasts during the week. For whatever reason, in my head, that meeting actually occurred, right? But as it turns out, it didn't occur until Friday. So as we were saying it wasn't true. But if you happen to listen to our show on Friday, then it became true. And we were the first ones to report it, if that makes sense.
Did it happen on Friday? Like I've heard so many, well, they didn't actually meet. Punk was in there, or like, I don't know, man. Like the chain of command with the pro wrestling gossip links are so bad. Who knows when it happened? Supposedly it happened.
I thought it came from Wade Keller. I could be wrong about that, so please don't cite me as a source. But I thought Wade had said that the meeting occurred between Punk and Jericho on Friday. And I'm assuming that happened in Florida because Punk was in Florida. And he gets on a plane back to Chicago where Monday Night Raw is at. And he's on the plane with the WWE wrestlers because they all live in Florida. Florida is like pro wrestler heaven. So he's mingling. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the leadership there is bonkers, but man, no tax sounds pretty damn appealing, especially coming from a guy that currently lives in Hawaii and used to live in California. Moving to Florida sounds pretty damn good. But anyway, so he gets on a plane to Chicago and he's on the plane with all the WWE wrestlers. And they're mingling, hanging out. And then next thing you know, he's showing up at Raw, talking with The Miz, talking with all kinds of people. He ends up talking with Triple H. And then all of a sudden, he gets his ass escorted out of the building by security, man. So what was your initial reaction to hearing that Punk was at Raw this week? What did you think about that initially?
That's wild. Like, I just thought that is the craziest thing ever. And then, like, all the conspiracy bots come out. And then it's like, well, why is he there? What's he trying to prove? What is his end game? Like, this is a guy who is a jerk who punched somebody. And people in our space talk about him like he's a goddamn serial killer. Murdered 27 people and has he's John Wayne Gacy for my Illinois. Well, that's our serial killer
from Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. That's our guy. My mom actually grew up in the same neighborhood as him.
No shit. Did your mom actually meet him?
Probably he was older than my mom, but he knew my aunts and uncles and stuff like that because they all played together. My grandpa owned the bakery in the neighborhood, and my uncle Marv always said he was a dick, who was the kind of kid who would cry and took his ball when he went home. My mom actually did know the final victim. He was the beggar at the grocery store that my parents went to. So the last John Wayne Gacy victim was a kid they knew peripherally. Like, oh yeah, as a kid from the store.
Yeah, because Gacy came over from, I think, Milwaukee and started a construction business, and he was pretty succactual there in the Chicago suburbs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, his sister and my aunt were like best friends, and she had to change her name because they actually want to move to Florida because life was just so bad because people would just not let go of the fact that her brother was our most famous serial killer.
Yeah. I would. I definitely would change my name. But if my last name were Brooks and I'm related to CM Punk because he punched somebody, I'm not changing my name. Sorry.
Brooks is common. If your last name was Punk, you'd have other things. Actually, it'd be pretty cool if your last name was actually Punk. It'd be like Terry Funk, cool. Terry Punk. So,
Yeah.
like I was saying, I
Sorry.
don't know, man. People like dig so much into what does all this mean, and we have. Isn't it weird that being on the out? I consider us on like the outskirts of the pro wrestling space. Like we're not
Mhm.
really insiders, but we know insiders,
Yeah.
right? And we hear from some of our inside friends, like that he goes there to make amends because he's our friend, our no, you know, our friend. We'll just say that
Yeah.
is trying to tell us that he's trying to get better, right? And I'm the
Yeah.
and I told you guys in our chat, I am the eternal optimist. I work with kids. I have to believe that people are willing to get better. I have to. It keeps me going every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. What do you think about this whole thing?
So my initial reaction was this was a legendary power move by an ultimate chess player.
Which
Because
still could
the
be, by the
only
way.
yeah, because he didn't. So in this whole situation with Tony Khan, he didn't have any leverage because Tony Khan never believed that he would go back to WWE and that they wouldn't accept him back. And I think this was Punk's way of kind of extending an olive branch just in case this new project, like he's returning to AEW. I think that's guaranteed at this point. But just in case this whole thing goes south again, he's already starting to grease the wheels of WWE because he has the wrestling bug. So I thought this was his way of telling Tony Khan that, hey, look, I am willing to go to WWE and I still do have friends there. And WWE, they took back the Ultimate Warrior. They took back Hulk Hogan. They took back Bruno Sammartino. They took back Bret Hart. They brought back Marty Jannetty 17 times. And Marty
Jimmy
Jannetty was
Snuka killed someone.
Jimmy Snuka killed a lady and McMahon paid them off. I don't think it's that far fetched to think that CM Punk might possibly go back. He's by far he's not even close to being the worst person that's ever worked there, right? He's a
Oh God,
miserable
no.
prick. He's a miserable prick, but I think they feel like they could probably make it work. So I think that it was always like CM Punk wouldn't be willing to go back. Now we do have a friend that says that WWE wouldn't take them back, but I think history has shown us that just isn't the case. They always take you back. They have
Always.
taken everybody back.
Everybody.
So yeah, but after I heard that, CM Punk, maybe he was trying to make amends. And here's my thing on that. Like and I'm a guy who's worked the 12-step program, and I had to make amends with a lot of people because I hurt a lot of people. What you don't do is do that in front of a big crowd where everybody's seeing it, so that way people find out about it. You call them on the phone, you text them, you meet them at a park or a coffee shop, and then you kind of talk about what happened. And what you do in that situation is that you go over them and you apologize for the things that you did wrong to them. Regardless if they did anything wrong too, you don't even bring that up. You just bring up your side of the story and you clean up your side of the street, and you try to make them whole with that. That's been my experience with that. Now, if somebody told them like, hey, why don't you just go backstage where a lot of people are talking to try to make amends to Triple H? I think that would have been bad advice. The better advice would have been, hey, why don't you contact so-and-so who likely has Triple H's phone number? Why don't you shoot him a text and say, hey, man, I'm in town. Maybe we can get a cup of coffee, right? Or something like that. I don't know if that's even possible, but that would be the better advice.
I hear where you're coming from, but we're also assuming we're discussing normal people here.
That's
right?
True. Yeah.
We are talking about professional wrestlers who don't know how to exist when they're not in front of people, right? And I think that when you're seeing, like, let's be honest, do you really think Paul Levesque is taking CM Punk's phone call if he just ran, saying they have phone numbers? Like, I don't know. Maybe we always tell people that, like, the best way to make amends is just to go up and talk to somebody. And he really just went up and talked to him. And it might have been a lot of things. It might have just been like, hey, because it's apparently he didn't know they were in town. He was just on a flight with these guys. Right. Which is possible because like his life was taking him in different directions. And like I said, everyone flies up from Florida, So it's interesting. Like I said, I choose to think the best of people. I hope that he is trying to get better because, like, quite frankly, pro wrestling is a better place with him. And this dude is amazing at keeping himself in the news. Amazing.
Oh, I thought we were done talking about him.
We'll never be done talking about CM Punk ever.